Well, this is how you know you shoot a bunch, when you start finding stuff like this. 5.56 shell casings all over the bed of my truck. Literally every time I look in my truck bed, I find shell casings. It's almost like a game at this point. Which caliber are we gonna find this time? Today it's 5.56, tomorrow it'll be something completely different. All right, welcome back guys. Unfortunately, we're not gonna be doing any shooting today, but we will be getting back to that soon, I promise. But today I wanna talk a little bit more about the ammo shortage. So I've done a couple videos on this. I'm sure at this point you're all well aware of how scarce the ammo has been. You guys are struggling with it just as much as I am, I'm sure, but it's been 7, 8, 9 months now, and I never thought that we would get to the point that we're at. Whenever I made the first video on this topic like 8 or 9 months ago, I thought it would last a few months, be over with, and we'd be back to normal by now, but it doesn't look like that's gonna happen anytime soon. So it's been almost a year, and at this point, I think we all have a pretty good idea of what calibers are here to stay and which ones are just not coming back, at least not anytime soon, unfortunately. So I mentioned it a little bit in the last video that I did on this topic, but situations like this kind of make you consider getting into guns and calibers that otherwise you would never even look at. So today I want to talk about the best calibers to buy or invest in during the 2020 ammo shortage if you can't find the calibers for the guns you currently have. But first we're gonna go into the barn because it is absolutely freezing out here. Holy crap, it is freezing out there. All right, so I apologize ahead of time for the echo in the barn. Obviously, it's gonna sound kind of different than it would outside. But before we get started on the ones that you can find, there will be times when you go to a gun shop and get lucky and find 9mm or 45 or whatever handgun caliber you carry, maybe some AR-15 ammo. Really, all the major handgun calibers, at least around where I live, are pretty hard to find and pretty much stay sold out. But if you get lucky and you find them and you need it, then buy it. That being said, now there are a very few number of calibers that are in stock every single time I go to the gun shop, no matter what. They just have not been bought up throughout this entire thing. So it's kind of making people realize that it might not be a bad idea to invest in those guns and those calibers for maybe the next time this happens, or God forbid if this one doesn't end, which unfortunately a lot of people in the industry are predicting that this will last for quite a long time. And even with the election being over and COVID restrictions being lifted, this ammo shortage is gonna continue for quite a long time. I hope that's not true, but from what I'm hearing, a lot of people do not see, the light at the end of the tunnel on this one. So we might be stuck in this situation for quite a while. Hopefully not, but if we are, these are the calibers that, might not be a bad idea to invest in. So number one is the 22 long rifle. Now, the 22 is one that almost everybody already has. I don't think I know anyone that owns guns that doesn't have at least 22 LR, whether it's a pistol or a rifle or whatever. And I don't know why the 22 has not been bought up during this ammo shortage. Back in 2012 and 2013, I think it was, when we had the last ammo shortage, the 22 was the one that everyone was buying, and you could not find it. They had restrictions on how many you could buy and 2-box limits and stuff like that. But for some reason this time around, the 22 has survived this. I've joked before that maybe since everyone bought 100,000 rounds during the last ammo shortage that no one needs 22 long rifle this time around, but I don't know what the real reason is, why it's so available and no one's buying it up. But obviously the 22 has some major disadvantages. It's a huge round among preppers. They love the 22 long rifle because it's so cheap. You can store a ton of it and it's effective enough to do the job. Obviously it's not the most powerful rifle caliber out there, but if you brain something at a relatively close distance with a 22 long rifle, it will kill it and it will do the job if you do your job. So after all, it is a bullet that's going over 1,000 feet per second. So although it's low on the power spectrum, it's a very capable round if you know what you're doing. Now, that being said, I would not expect the 22 long rifle to last throughout this entire process. If this goes another year or two, or God forbid 3 or 4, I would expect the 22 to start getting bought up a little bit more than it is now, because it's really starting to get slim pickings on some of the other calibers. And if people can't find 5.56, 7.62, the rifle calibers that they want, then they will resort to buying 22 long rifle, because for some reason right now people just feel like they need to be buying ammo no matter what caliber it is. If you don't have a 22, you should anyway. The cost of the ammo is always ridiculously cheap. Even during this ammo shortage, it's been really affordable. But if you don't have one, now might be a good time to invest in a 22 long rifle. I have a few, or we have a few I should say, but I'm actually looking at the Glock 44, the the semi-automatic 22 caliber pistol that Glock recently put out, because I've always wanted a 22 pistol that size, and from what I've seen, that one works really well. So I am looking at a couple 22s myself, and like I said, if you don't have one, now might be a good time to invest in one, because the 22 long rifle is a round that everyone should have anyways, but especially right now, it is one of the very few that you can still find in gun shops. All right, now we're gonna talk about a couple that are a little less common than the 22 long rifle. First up, we have the 450 Bushmaster. Now, this is one that I see every single time I go to my gun shops. They have 450 Bushmaster. So I've never shot the 450 Bushmaster. I don't have, a ton of knowledge on it. From what I understand, it is a straight-walled rifle cartridge that you can use in standard AR-15s with modified magazines and upper receiver assemblies, I believe. So like you swap out an upper and you can use a standard AR lower. That might be incorrect, I don't know. But the 450 Bushmaster is obviously a much bigger bullet. I'll try to run pictures in, over the top of the video here so you can see what it looks like. Much bigger than a 223, obviously. But it's a straight walled case that allows you to hunt in states that don't permit rifle hunting. There's another one that we'll talk about that serves the same purpose, but there's a reason that these are available right now, because nobody really likes them or owns the guns to shoot them. And like I always say, there's probably a good reason for that, because there's just better options. But that's why these are available, and that's why it could be a good idea to invest in these, because obviously not a lot of people have them, or not a lot of people are buying them. So yeah, I don't know too much about the 450 Bushmaster. I know that it would serve the purpose you needed it to, most likely, especially in an SHTF situation or something like that. It might not be too good at really long range, just because it is such a big bullet, but from what I've seen, pretty powerful, pretty effective cartridge. I know Demo Ranch did a video on one a while back, I believe. I think, there's a lot of videos out there on the 450 Bushmaster, but don't have any personal experience with it. All I know is it's available right now and not a lot of ammo is. So the 450 Bushmaster could be another one that you might want to take a look at. All right, next up we have the 350 Legend. Now I actually have a box of 350 Legend because I was supposed to get a gun in this caliber. We still might get it down the road. So I went ahead and bought a box of ammo because it was one of the only ones that they had on the shelf. So I decided to go ahead and grab it before it was sold out, but it turns out that it's not selling out. Really, no one's buying the 350 Legend. It's not a super popular caliber. Again, it does serve the same purpose as the 450 Bushmaster in that it is a straight walled cartridge, so you can use rifles to hunt in states like right next door in Illinois. They cannot hunt with rifles in Illinois. So the 350 Legend and the 450 Bushmaster, I believe, are allowed in those states that don't allow rifle hunting. So I'll go ahead and show you what one of these look like. They're huge bullets. I mean, they look pretty impressive. Definitely a unique looking round. It looks like a giant 357 Magnum. That's the first thing that came to my mind. It's just like the biggest revolver round you've ever seen. But you can see, huge bullet, not a bullet that I would want to get shot with. So I'm not sure what the ballistics are on the 450 Bushmaster or the 350 Legend. There might be some velocities on the box here. Okay, so the muzzle velocity on the 350 Legend is 2,250 feet per second from a 16-inch barrel. So that's like an AK-47. That is pretty impressive, for a bullet this size, and definitely powerful enough to do pretty much anything you need it to. So I know the 350 Legend is a caliber that they're starting to make AR-15s in. That's actually what I was supposed to get sent to me, was an AR pistol chambered in 350 Legend. The 450 Bushmaster, I believe, is another one that is available in AR-15 style rifles. So obviously everyone knows how to use an AR-15. It would be an easy transition to make. Obviously the recoil is probably going to be a pretty big difference from a 223 or a 5.56 to a 350 Legend or a 450 Bushmaster. Again, I've never shot either, but based on the velocity of that round and the size of the bullet in the shell casing, I would imagine it's probably got a little kick to it, more than a regular AR-15. But times are tough right now, so you got to kind of take what you can get. So the 350 Legend might be another one that you're interested in, and I have seen this every single time I go to my gun shops. No matter which one I go to, they have 350 Legend and 450 Bushmaster in stock all the time. All right, guys, the fourth caliber that I want to talk about today is the 12 gauge shotgun. Now, I've done a bunch of videos on 12 gauges before. I love 12 gauge shotguns. Most people do. It wouldn't be my first choice for like SHTF or even home defense. It serves a really good purpose in home defense. I know a lot of people prefer shotguns for that, but it wouldn't be my first choice for a lot of those things, but it wouldn't be my last choice either. The 12 gauge shotgun is one of the most versatile weapons on the planet. Just the variety of loads that you can put in a shotgun, especially a 12 gauge shotgun with all the ammo selections that you have. We've talked about that ad nauseum here on the channel, but the ammo is actually still available in most places that I go. And if you're okay with getting birdshot, it's super available, like thousands of rounds on the shelf every time I go to a gun shop. The buckshot and the slugs is a little harder to find, but I still see that once or twice a week because I go to the gun shop about every day that I can. But yeah, the 12 gauge is definitely more available than I expected it to be. On top of that, pretty much everyone has a 12 gauge shotgun, or at least someone you know has a 12 gauge shotgun. They're super common, so it's not a gun that most people would have to buy. Most people already have a 12 gauge of some sort, whereas with some of these other calibers like the 450 Bushmaster, 350 Legend, most people don't have those, so you would have to invest in a gun and the ammo to really get yourself set up with that caliber. But a 12 gauge, you know, everyone I know has a 12 gauge shotgun, if not several of them. So for that reason, I think the 12 gauge would be a great caliber to invest in right now if you haven't already, because even after all this is over, it's gonna be a gun that you want. It's just such a common caliber, and it's, you know, the variety of ammo that you have with the 12 gauge is just unparalleled in pretty much any other caliber. So a 12 gauge is a good one to invest in anyways. Why not do it while it's one of the 4 or 5 calibers that you can actually find right now if you don't already have one. Birdshot, buckshot, slugs, mini slugs, less lethal, rubber buckshot, rubber slugs, bean bags, pepper balls, dragon's breath, 3-inch, 3.5-inch, pretty much anything you can think of, they offer ammo for it in the 12 gauge. So if you don't have one, I highly recommend the 12 gauge shotgun. All right guys, so I saved the best caliber for number 5, and this is the best caliber by a mile on our list today, and that is the 7.62 by 39, the AK-47. So I've heard several theories on why Russian ammo is still available and American ammo isn't. Like even when I find 9mm, it's usually like Red Army Standard or Wolf 9mm. Same with the 223. I'm finding a lot of steel-cased Russian 223, and the 7.62 by 39 is all the Russian steel-cased Wolf. So I don't know if there's something going on with the American companies that isn't affecting foreign companies, and that's why we're able to get the 7.62 by 39. But either way, whatever it is, the 7.62 is still very available, at least around here. And that seems to be the case across the entire country because I've heard other guys on YouTube say the same thing. So the 7.62 by 39, it is one of my favorite calibers. Even when there's not an ammo shortage, the 7.62 is just really hard to beat. The only con that I give it is super long range, which I do not do super long range shooting anyways. I wouldn't trust myself to take an 800 or 900 yard shot with an AR or a 308 anyways. So the 7.62, you know, isn't really a downside in that regard to me anyways, because I don't do that kind of shooting. But up close and personal, the AK-47 and the 7.62 by 39 is just a great caliber. Super effective, easy to control. It does have a little more recoil than an AR-15. We've talked about that a bunch here on the channel as well. But one of my favorites, and the fact that this stuff is still available with how common and how popular these rifles are, especially for SHTF and prepping and, you know, self-defense, is just mind-blowing to me. I cannot believe that 7.62 by 39 is not falling victim to this ammo shortage. And even at the gun shops I go to, there's no limit on how much you can buy. Like I went the other day and bought 10 boxes. I went a couple days after that and bought 5. You can just buy as much of the 7.62 as you want. And for some reason, it's more available than anything else. I don't know if that's gonna last. I don't see it lasting, but if there's no shortage on this ammo coming in, then maybe we'll get lucky and the AKs will just survive this whole entire ammo shortage, whereas the ARs and the, you know, common handgun calibers are just not surviving it. So that being said, I've recommended AKs 1,000 times here on the channel. If you don't have one, I highly recommend them. I would do some research because there are AKs out there that, you know, aren't made as well as some of the others, but for the most part, I just love the AK-47 and I love the 7.62 by 39. And for whatever reason, this ammo is still readily available. I wish they would send the 5.45 by 39 with it so I could stock up for my AK-74, but you never see that. But the 7.62 by 39, believe it or not, is a caliber that I would recommend getting into during this ammo shortage because it is still available. For how long, I don't know. All right, everybody, that is gonna do it for me today. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully some of you guys found this helpful. I'm sure most of you have been out to your local gun shops or looked online and seen a lot of the same stuff that I've been seeing, but I know a lot of people do, you know, go online or ask around for advice on this kind of stuff, and I thought I would give you guys my top 5 calibers that I would recommend investing in during this ammo shortage if you don't already have them. So obviously if I had to pick one over the rest, I would pick the 7.62x39. It's not even close. That is an awesome caliber, awesome guns, and I really wouldn't have a problem picking that over any other gun, even when there's not an ammo shortage. I love the AKs, and you really can't go wrong with the AK-47 and the 7.62x39. So that being said, let me know what your opinions are on this topic down in the comments. As always, if you like this video, please hit that like button for me. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.